Are you there?
I am here, Miss Sharon, on the West Coast. How are you today?
Well, I am doing wonderful. It is a awesome time of the year, and I'm just excited about, you know, coming towards a new year and all these things. But that kind of fits into our topic today, huh?
Yes, it does. It absolutely does. This is a great time of year for me too. Different reasons. This is time of year my family always goes on vacation. I always look forward to this time of year because the kids were out of school and we get to do some fun things. And so I'm excited about our topic today.
Yes, yes. So as we said, it's not always that way for everybody, though.
Mhm. Yeah, it's not. And so our topic today is, why don't you reiterate what our topic is in case somebody's just dropping in?
Yes, for those of you that are just popping on, well, welcome, first of all, for popping
Yes.
in. You have
How
dropped
did we
in,
get that?
you have dropped in on Coast to Coast. And so Coast to Coast is comprised of me, Sharon Davis, on the West Coast, and
And me, Lisa Washington, on the East Coast. And
and
together we
together,
are Coast to
two
Coast.
Coast Beauty. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. This is a labor of love for us. We enjoy doing it. We enjoy hanging out with each other and sharing different topics with you. And we certainly hope it's of value to you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And so today we're talking about some practical ways to overcome or beat or ward off holiday blues and loneliness.
Yes, yes. Because, yeah, it's people, holidays are not the wonderful, joyous time of year as it is for other people.
Yes.
And it's for many reasons.
Mm-hmm. And you don't have to be Scrooge. No, for many
You,
reasons.
you,
Do you want to talk about some of the reasons why, and then I'll come in with some solutions. Why don't we start with some of the reasons why, and then we'll talk about some possible solutions for those issues.
well, certainly, Lisa. I think that one of the top thing that would come to my mind is was something that we actually covered on a previous episode talking about fall. Is that certain times of the year for some people are just more difficult. People have a biorhythm, and it does not always fit with everybody else around them, and so forth. And some people's biorhythm is just more depleted in the fall. And as it comes into then winter and so forth and the holidays, it doesn't always give them that joyous feeling because intrinsically they are lower in chemicals that would give you that happy feeling, that joy, that joyness. Even when things that are happy going on around you, it still doesn't give you that pleasure. And many people suffer from that. Then there are other reasons, such as family members not being around, loss of family members and friends. I think that people moving from a location where they're not familiar with, there's so many things that can feed into that. Health issues, self-esteem issues, and just not feeling like you want to be around people. And we'll talk about some things that you can do to get through those. And then on top of that, just outside of your own self, there's the fact that time has changed, gets darker sooner. People just get really snippy in the stores.
Rage,
Yeah.
You clean that up nicely.
Shopping rage and driving rage
And parking
become
lots.
a part. Oh man, becomes much more intense, and it just it doesn't lend itself for all those nice fuzzy warm feelings towards mankind.
There is financial stress if you can't do the thing you want to do financially. If you can't afford the money to put on that big mama's meal that you want to fix, or that that the gifts that you want to get that year are going to be less than what your heart wants to give, because for financial reasons, adds a lot of stress too.
Yes, that's definitely true. And so there's things that we can do. First of all, I think that if it is a depressive kind of thing, that you do need to talk to your doctor about that. That's something that a doctor can help you with. And it doesn't always have to include medication, but there are some things that a doctor can suggest to help you get through it.
Yes. Yes.
Plus, getting resources to help you feel better, just being able to talk with someone, acknowledging that this is the way you feel. A lot of times that's something that people just need to hear, is that, yeah, I understand it's difficult for you right now. That makes sense.
You need to know that you're not crazy, because sometimes when you see everybody around you seemingly happy and you are not as naturally happy at the moment, you could say, oh, there's something wrong with me, I'm crazy, but it's not really that you're crazy. It's just a lot going on.
Right. And it is a lot going on during this time of year that becomes, even those people who want to be happy and generally are happy can become overwhelmed for many reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I certainly, and I mentioned in the earlier broadcast that we did that covered this a little bit. I have, a girlfriend who struggles this time of year, no matter what. And it's not about the holidays. It's just about the fact that when it gets fall and winter, she does have that chemical imbalance that goes lower, and she needs something to help her to kind of counterbalance that. And so, but I've also talked to people who struggle during this time of year, especially around the holiday time. And let me tell you, it is so well documented and it's so well known that there are some things going on around you that you probably never even noticed that are put there, because the doctors and the marketers and the stores understand that there are a lot of people who are having these issues. For instance, let's talk about the fact that this time of year, you will always find some of those dating sites start to give you a free weekend. Almost every single year, this time of year, watch for it. Watch the television. It'll be like, oh, go join now and have a free weekend, because they know this time of year people are lonely. And this is the perfect time for them to, for lack of a better word, suck you in and get you into their algorithm. And you'll also notice that the commercials are all showing nothing but big happy families, but then somehow in the last few years you'll notice that a lot of the commercials will have this one person who's alone, and somebody notices it, and they'll go over and slip a little card under the door to say, come over to our house and be with us. Or they'll fix them a plate, and they'll go over there and ring the doorbell and say, here your plate. That's not by accident. That's because the powers that be, for lack of a better word, know that this is an issue for a lot of people. And they are trying to send out the subtle message that here's what you can do. You can invite somebody over, and you can fix somebody a plate and take it to them. And you can include people who are alone, that are alone, in your plans if you have them. But let's face it, a lot of times we don't know that people are feeling alone because they suffer in silence.
Right.
They do.
Oh, here we go with the echo.
So
Me and my daughter um, went and bought like a 4 inch, 4 foot tree and took it home and decorated it and took it over to her house. And
Uh-huh.
she was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. She stood at the door and cried and just was just overwhelmed with joy and so forth. She wouldn't let us in the house. So we were, I kind of was concerned about that, being that mental health is my background. I was, kind of concerned about that. But I found out some years later that she was a hoarder. That's why she wouldn't let us in the house. And probably the last thing she needed was a 4 foot tree to add to everything else. But the point is that it was intended to bring the holiday to her, and that's what we need to do. And it's not so much the holiday; it's just decency, common support, and decency, because that's what it lacks. That's
Yes. Remember Welcome Wagon? When you moved into a new neighborhood, somebody ding dong is Welcome Wagon. They're like, welcome to the neighborhood. I am even to this day, I promise you. About 2 months ago, a new family moved in across the street from me. And I was looking like, oh my goodness, I should bake a casserole and take it over there. And I have done that, but I found that it's so rare these days that people question it. And
yes.
they're like, is she trying to poison me?
Yeah.
Or you know what, if you don't have time to bake a casserole, if you go to the store and get a box of fried chicken for yourself, and there's somebody moving into the neighborhood, buy a box for them. They don't have time to stop and cook. They're trying to get that truck unloaded, get those boxes in the right room and things like that. Or just to go over and say hi, I'm your neighbor across the street. Welcome to the neighborhood. And I know that it's not something that we see a lot on television. Media doesn't do it. The welcome wagon went away, and it's not being passed down. Grandmama used to do it, and grandmama used to know if somebody was sick, she made them a pot of soup. And, she might have made a whole big pot and the family had some, but she took a big bowl over to whoever had a cold. And
Right.
So, but then I think that there was a time when people were born and raised in an area and around people who knew them. And so everybody kind of sort of knew each other, even if you didn't know them, you knew somebody who knew them. And so now everything is transit. We joke about, oh, she's a real Atlantan, because it's very rare to find somebody in Atlanta who was born and raised in Atlanta, and where we call them AT aliens. So, oh my goodness, she's a real AT alien. And so now we don't have that. Nobody knows anybody. And so sometimes, I'm going to be honest, even me, I question, okay, what if they have a special diet? What if they, are gluten intolerant? What if they don't eat meat? They might be vegan. What if they're allergic to something like Parmesan or, chocolate, and all of that goes through my mind, and you almost can talk yourself out of it, but it doesn't matter. It is the gesture that matters, that we think about people. And especially this time of year when, it's been well documented that people have worse time with clinical depression. And even people who are not clinically depressed can tend to be just lonely and just situationally depressed.
Right. And especially after a loss. I know I've had some family members who've had some significant losses in a very short period of time. And you just can't recover from one, and then there's another one on top of that. And the holidays always makes that even more prevalent, because guess what? You set the table, and it's like how I kind of explain the grief process for people is that you're setting the table every day for the people that are supposed to be there, but some of them are not showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more evident when you set the table that they're not there than if you don't set the table. So at holidays, the table is going to be set, whether it's buffet or whatever. It's that their seat is not there, and it makes it sometimes for some people just unpalatable.
Yes, and there are a lot of traditions that are just intrinsically a part of this time of year. I know for me, I don't celebrate the holidays, but we still have traditions. For most of the years, uh, 20, 30 years, when the kids were out of school, we had traditions of what we would do around the Thanksgiving holiday. And then when the kids were out of school for the Christmas holidays, we still had traditions of what we did. And one of those traditions was to go to Kenneth's mom's house. And so when she was no longer there, that tradition felt different. And then he had a sister that passed away, two of them really. And so when I know the first year after one of them had passed away, it felt the atmosphere was just totally different. Even though the tradition was still there, the loss was more heavy. You just felt it. Even though one passed away in January. And by the time we got around to December, it had almost been a whole year, but it was just so blaringly. It was like a big horn just going blaring that she's not here anymore. And so I know from firsthand experience that the loss of a loved one can have a really big effect on you during this time of year, whether you celebrate holidays or not, because I know sometimes some people do, some don't, but it's still, and then sometimes you feel like you can't talk about it because, well, I don't celebrate, so nobody's going to understand why I feel this way. No. What you're feeling is very real and it's very, very valid. Okay. It is.
Yes, definitely. So some of the ways to get through it is by doing what you want to do the very least, which is to be around people.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean a whole bunch of people, but one or two people that you feel comfortable and trust and can push yourself to just deal with, that will help you to get through it. As well as, if you need to call some talk lines and just talk to somebody about how you're feeling and thoughts that you're having, do that. If even if it's to the extent that you need to talk to someone on a suicide hotline, do it, because you are worth it and you are valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And people are there to help you. But
yes.
As far as the stores and all of that, I would just say no, that it's going to take you more time to do everything. It's going to take you longer to get home from work. Yes. That little word that we just hate, patience, and just accepting the fact that, this is the time changed. It's darker. There's more accidents. The lines are longer everywhere. And know that it's just not going to be business as usual.
Yes. And for me, I think that I'm a very much a proactive kind of person instead of reactive. So I would encourage you not to just wait until the holiday is there and now you're knee deep in it and you're trying to overcompensate. You have to go to almost extreme measures to kind of balance everything out, and you might end up overcompensating in one area and swinging so far in the other. For instance, as Sharon was just saying, she said, call someone, even if it's just that one person, and connect with one person. Well, that's a great advice. What happens sometimes is, out of desperation, somebody will just throw themselves into a group of people, huge group of people seeking companionship and not wanting to be alone. And, you might find yourself in a club somewhere surrounded by people and still feeling alone, or at a party somewhere surrounded by people and still haven't made any meaningful connections. And so I would encourage you to start before and start making connections, because you want friends in your life the whole year, not just, during that critical end of the year time period. And so that is strategic. As someone who didn't make and friends naturally, easily, I had to learn that there are some steps that are just really critical to forming meaningful relationships. One of my very best friends, Cherie, we didn't become best friends because we just hooked up and met each other and they just instantly fell in love. Well, she might have. It took me some steps. You heard me talk about my girlfriend Karen. We had to go through some things before we connected, but I learned some things along the way, and that is that having some common ground or some common interests or some common likes or some common even background can absolutely help you to make meaningful connections with people. And so, there are the dating sites that are out there, but then there are also, I'm going to talk about 3 different areas where you can meet up with someone who you might have some common interests, some interest in common. And one of those is what you're listening to right now, what you're watching right now, which is social media. And so if you're on social media and you're connecting with people, I encourage you to not just connect randomly, but to connect strategically. For instance, if you like to travel or if you want to travel but have never, then you might go into your Facebook and look up travel groups. Look up groups and then travel. So you can do a search for groups and then travel. And then join that group and then watch what's going on in there so that you can see there might be someone who jumps out and you might say, oh my goodness, we were separated at birth. I know I've met a few people and I says, oh, we were separated at birth, because the stuff that she posts resonates with me so powerfully. And so that's one area where you can start to make some meaningful connections via social media. The other one is there's something called Meetup. And then you go to meetup.com, you put your city in there and you can do a search and you can find some groups that have some common interests or some interests that you want to explore. Again, I'll use travel, for instance. And if you want to travel or if you do travel and you want a travel companion, you can meet up with some people in your city that like to do that. Or you can put in community service. And you can meet up with some people in your city who like to volunteer and do community service. Or you can put any number of hobbies. If you like to dance, I know one of my doctors liked the ballroom dance. And I always know when I go into the office if she has a dance class or dance something that night, because she has on the little skirts with that'll flare out when she dances, and her shoes are a certain heel. And so she loves those dancing groups. And hey, I keep saying I'm going to join one. And so you can do meet up with real people in your city, or you can do the social media. And the other thing is e-invite. If you go to e-invite.com and put in your city, you will also find, oh my goodness, cultural things, museum things at the museum, things at the library. There's so much in the city. I talked about this a little bit on a previous personal broadcast on date night and how you can make date night magical. Okay, that was this broadcast, how you can make date night magical. And so there is so much that you can do, and you can find, you don't need 100 different friends right now. What you need is connect with one person, one heart at a time. And the great place to start is by finding some people who have some interests that you already have, or some interests that are on your list, your life list. I won't say bucket list. Some things that you see that you think, oh, that would be interesting. I wouldn't mind doing that. And so those are some proactive things that you can do so that the holidays don't sneak up on you and bang you over the head with a big rubber anvil or hammer.
And if you don't have established, if you don't have established traditions, you can always make them. You can start one this year. When my first marriage broke up, I wanted to make sure that my kids had something that kept them focused off of the fact that he wasn't there during the holidays. So Christmas Day we started a tradition where we went to the movies together, three of us. And that went on for I think probably 10 years until the need was no longer there to fill that time because they had by then families of their own. You find something to do, Mom. Now,
Yeah.
but you can always start a tradition for yourself, whether it's to go and help serve other people. That's
Oh my goodness.
always that's always a great way to help yourself feel better. Um, Go to the movies, a tradition to go to a museum, whatever, something that you're going to say on this day every year. This is what I'm going to do, at least for the next few years or however long you feel it's necessary. And you can do it alone or include people in that.
Yes, a girlfriend of mine said that they were starting a new tradition this year to have a Snuggle Buddies pajama party where the whole family, the dad, the mom, the kids were all gonna buy, the onesies, the big ones, not Snuggle Buddies, the onesie pajamas, and nobody is gonna see it. It's gonna be a big reveal, and they're gonna, have like a family night with movies and popcorn. I personally have a different tradition where we watch Home Alone, and we watch them both, the one and the number two in New York, the first two, and we, bug out on snacks. And the next morning, I make blueberry pancakes. I do not like blueberry pancakes. Every one of my children and my husband loves blueberry pancakes, and I make them for them. It is a tradition. I know when my grown kids watch this replay, they're going to be like, calling me saying, Mom, give me that blueberry pancake recipe so my wife can make it for me. So it was a tradition that they, they were out of school the whole week of Thanksgiving. And so that first morning when we woke up, it was blueberry pancakes morning. They knew it. And so, as you said, you can start a tradition. You can invite some people over. If nobody invites you over, you invite them over, and it's okay. And it can grow from there. Every tradition has its first annual. Okay, you have to just decide. I do. There was something else you said. I cannot remember. Oh, the community service. Two of my kids graduated from private school. One went longer than the other, but one of the things is this school was community services, and it was just required. And I do remember one of the things they had to do was the food drive. And so they would, they had to run a food drive at the school, and then they went to a homeless shelter and served. Okay, they didn't cook, but they delivered the food, and somebody else did the cooking, and then they went back to serve. And I will tell you that is something, they got something from that I could not have instilled in them, just sitting them at my dining room table eating a Big Mama's dinner. Okay, they will get to see, and you will get to see something that will change you. The first time you volunteer, it will change you. It absolutely will.
I did that with my kids as well, is that I would oftentimes I would be on call or scheduled to go to a homeless shelter to do mental health assessments, and I would take them with me. And okay, if you don't really have a need to worry about what you may not have gotten for Christmas when you're at a homeless shelter handing out blankets or serving food and so forth. And so my daughter continued to do that up until she got married and moved away. But both of my kids were they were required to do community service. It wasn't school, it was sharing land.
Oh, you were the sheriff, huh?
Sharing land.
I know what you said, but I said you were the sheriff. Like, oh, you're going to volunteer.
I have to tell you the story how sharing land came about. That's.
Oh my goodness. Okay, we'll talk. We have to talk about that.
Yeah, but
we should do a broadcast about that. Some of our nicknames that our children have nicknamed us. Like I said, I was the CIA, and you're sharing land.
I created sharing land as a result of something my son did. So but we're going to have to dig up some of those little bones. Yeah, that will be awesome and fun. But you know what? We've gone over. We always do. because as I said, Lisa and I just have so much fun when we get together, and both of us, as as I often say, this is a labor of love for both of us, and so the need to do just what we're talking about, we forced our kids to do, give back, is what we're here about. But so we need to close it down, but we have first to announce Lisa's favorite part of the show. What's in your bag? Pictures. So we had some pictures come in, and the categories were household items, something sexy within reason. I always say that. And something that someone else put in your bag. And so this time, the winner for this month, for November, you want to announce the winner as I show them what the winner will get?
The winner is Cherie Star Lester. Okay. And no, it wasn't rigged, even though she's my BFF. She absolutely sent in a picture, and her name was the one that was drawn. And so you get a Coast to Coast Beauty shot glass. Oh my goodness. Now, Cherie, oh yeah, that Duvana, yes. Cherie, I have a shot glass collection because when I travel everywhere, that's the one thing that I'll bring back. It doesn't take up very much room in the luggage. You can always find something in every location, and it doesn't take up very much room on the shelf at your house. And so I, many years ago, started a shot glass collection. And so, Cherie, either you can add to your collection if you have one, or you can start a collection. The Coast Beauty.
It's made a tradition for you, Cherie.
I sure did. And what did she post that was in her bag?
It was earplugs.
Earplugs.
Yeah, I guess that would be a household item, or maybe it was
maybe her husband put them in there.
Yeah. Or it could go under something sexy too.
She'll have to come on and tell us and comment in the comment section which category that was. Yeah, it would be nice to know.
They were the cutest little purple earplugs. I'm like, oh, I need some purple earplugs to match my jammies.
Mine are red. I have red ones.
Okay.
All right.
Well, so we have come to another successful episode of Coast
to Coast Beauty.
So I'm Sharon Davis on the West Coast.
And I'm Lisa Washington on the East Coast.
And we are going to go ahead and kiss you out.